welcome back to another episode of MSL Lead Chronicles, where leaders learn from leaders. I'm Mary Morton, and along with my buddy Chad Fellers, we have casual talk about the challenges and successes in medical affairs with the most exciting and impactful professionals in pharma. As always, we have another great one for you today, so stick around.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of MSL Lead Chronicles, where leaders learn from leaders. I am your host, Chad Fellers, along with my nifty sidekick, Mary Morton. How are you, Mary, today?
I am doing great today. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. The sun's out. It's been a good week so far, and I'm looking forward to chasing a white golf ball maybe sometime soon. It may be white. It actually may be scuffed up too. I mean, I like to find the fairways if possible, but typically it's in the woods. And Mary, I got to tell you, I was out decompressing late evening of the day and happened to hit one in the woods. I know it's a shock.
Wow,
And
you never do that.
I was punching out, and then I look down and I see this thing that's kind of creeping, and it literally rears and gets ready to strike. And that was
Is it
when
the
my
golf ball being mad at you for keeping hitting it in the woods? And
No,
stuff, or
it was
it actually an animal?
It was a crooked stick. It was a snake, and that
Oh.
was yeah. Then snakes don't typically stay in the fairway, so maybe that's just another incentive for me to learn how to hit it there instead. But anyway,
safer.
yeah, probably safer. So anyway, either that or you could send me some golf balls since you live on a golf course. That would be great because I wouldn't have to go after all these. But anyway, I need more money, so maybe you could send them my way. But anyway, it was a big red flag, and that's one of the things I guess we can actually cue up today, right? When we think about really an interesting conversation with one of our esteemed guests that has decided to actually embrace us again and join this journey. We'd love it. Resume red flags, interview wins, what hiring managers want. I think this will be really good for anybody, whatever level you're in. If you're trying to break in, if you're trying to transition to a new role, whether it's in the field, whether it's in home office, whatever that is. So with that, why don't you go ahead and introduce our returning guest, and let's get going.
Well, I'm actually not going to totally introduce him since we've introduced him before. So
he doesn't. He needs no introduction. Is that what you're saying?
A returning
Just very
friend
little.
to the podcast. Kunal Ramani is joining us today. And
AKA, are you down with IDP? Yeah.
That's
IDP. Yeah, you know me.
One.
That's right. That's right.
You should steer away from doing that too. But Kunal, I want to tell you while we were on the golf ball thing. So I take pictures of the golf balls that I find in my backyard, and I send them to Chad, and he's like, "That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one." And then I found one the other day for yesterday, I think it was. And it was a yellow one, and it said Kirkland on it, which I think is the Costco brand of golf balls. And I said, I found one for you. And he said, that one pretty much matches my swing.
It probably does. It probably does.
Instead of using these expensive golf balls.
Mary, have you done the trick yet? Have you done the trick yet where there's a golfer playing and then they hit it somewhere near your house and you just lay down right beside the golf ball, so when they drive up it looks like you've been knocked out? I mean, I think that would be, it's still going to be the best prank ever. I think you should do that.
Yeah, I'm just never out there. Well, almost never out there when the ball gets in the yard. I just go out the end of the day.
Mary, priorities.
I know. I'm sorry. I'll do that.
Priorities. Okay. All right. Let's get going.
So Kunal is I'll let him kind of introduce his topic today, but it's been over a year, I think. Yeah, definitely. It's been a year and a half since we've had you on before, and some things have changed in your role. Still with Xeris, but tell us what's new with you.
Yeah, I think since the last time we spoke, things in my world have been, as everything with pharma, changing on a constant basis. We're in the process of going from a startup type company to a growing enterprise and everything that's associated with it, but always fun, always learning, and it's a great experience.
All right. Well, very good. Well, welcome back. So as you guys know, Kunal has answered the walk-up song question before, so we have a couple of different questions for him today to
Right.
get to know him just a little bit better.
By the way, that was a great answer. It's a great experience. You can take that so many different ways, right? Doesn't mean it's easy, to be clear, right? I mean, it's a learning journey, which kind of fits into your development that you talked about last time. Either way, I can always see some of these parallels. So anyway, back to the Mary. I'm in a interesting mood today.
I've got the important stuff.
So all right, okay.
Okay. So important question. What emoji best describes your leadership style? Or what emoji, if you're an emoji sender, would you say that your team says they get from you the most?
The one that's covering their face.
Oh, the face palm? I have one. I send this one sometimes with the two hands over the eyes. Like,
is that the I'm not seeing, or you can't see me one?
No, that's like this.
Oh, okay. All right.
John Cena.
Oh, okay. All right.
John Cena. Okay. All right. If your calendar could talk, what would it say to you right now?
Always doing something.
Okay. All right. Need a break. Probably need to stress things.
Give me margin. Give me margin. Yes.
All right.
I mean, it's a mixture of personal and business, so it's a good balance. It's just we're always busy. I have 2 kids that are young, and that takes up 80%, if not all, of my free time, if there is a such thing with kids. So
Okay. All right. So, see, people, this is serious business.
Yeah.
Nobody gets these questions ahead of time.
These are great interview questions, right? I mean, you could throw one in every once in a while, catch when you're interviewing somebody, see how authentic they are.
I think I'm going to have to use that.
Yeah.
I do like it.
So, I'll kind of introduce the topic because we don't necessarily have 3 specific takeaways today. It's a little bit different, So we're talking about resumes and interviewing, and we've got Kunal here to talk to us about what hiring managers are really looking for and what jumps out to them in resumes. What are some do's and some don'ts? And I would say also we're going to hit on some behaviors in interviews that are going to help you come across amazingly well, and some that maybe you should reconsider doing in interviews. So how about that?
Yeah, I'm super passionate about the topic, being in the role that I've had, and being able to at least share that experience of do's and don'ts so that everybody who's listening can rise to the top. So let's dive into it. I'm excited.
Let's dig in. Okay. All right. So let's dig in first. Like, tell me about your methodology. How do you like to start?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a visual person, and so when I'm opening up a resume, I don't know how many people do this, but I usually scroll all the way to the bottom. I want to know, what are their educational backgrounds? What do they do before their professional degree, if there was anything? And then as I work my way to the top, it gives me a good chronological overview of what roles and responsibilities that they've had. Have they increased in their function at their current company? That's a really good way to pick up if they've had 2 jobs at the same time, and then ask that, because I've seen that a few times of at the bottom they may put oh, I'm a consultant, but then at the top is what their current role is. And it's more frequent than not that I'd see 2 roles at the same time that I'd have to get more clarity on. But again, I start at the bottom and move my way toward the top, and then they have usually their little blurb about their background and bio, and then key competencies. And I like to see how that fits into the total narrative that they're telling. And then another component to that is, can they tell me a comprehensive story of where they started, where they were, and where they are now? That's my rationale starting at the bottom.
So has that evolved? Has that been your style from the very get-go, or?
No, actually, I used to start from the top, and then I just realized that instead of, again, I'm visuals, or I need to see things in chronological order. I felt like I was trying to put pieces together and work my way backwards versus, okay, this is where you are. This is where you were and where you are coming to me at, and what happened in between. And so to view it in that perspective really helped me to understand what their story was, rather than trying to put the pieces together backwards.
So when you get into the interview, do you ask them just that question? Do you ask it in those parts? tell me about who you are, what you've done, where you are now, and where you're wanting to go, or why you're here. Is that to see if it matches up with what you have assimilated with going through the way that you did earlier?
Sometimes, yeah, or I would say yes and no. If I need to get more clarity, then I will. But for the most part, what I try to do when I'm opening up is just make them comfortable.
Okay.
Of like, tell me a little bit, like connecting on an emotional level, or on something that we have in common, right? And that way, it just, you can tell when a person's at ease when they're having those conversations, rather than
Yeah.
it being a straight question
Yeah.
answer format, which can be uncomfortable at times. But to your question, if there is something that I need to dive into, I will ask it in that way. Usually, though, it's more um, showcasing the fact that I've read their resume, I know a little bit about them, but what is it that they want to highlight and share with me that I wouldn't have gotten from reading that document?
Got it. Got it. Well, so you, Mary, I know you're dying to ask questions, and I'm hogging things. There's one
No,
other
it's okay.
question I have, and I'll let you go. You can take over. You mentioned something earlier. You said, are they wearing multiple hats? Like with different, are they having different jobs? Um, are you do you have to fight a certain bias one way or another, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing when you see that? When you said you have to learn more, I mean, is it initially like, oh, this person, I don't know how committed they're going to be, or, oh, they like to try and have their hands in multiple things? Just kind of curious. I mean, and I know you want to find out more, but like, do
Yeah,
you lean one certain way when you see that?
that's a really good question because it's gotten me into trouble before. So
That's
initially, the
fine.
first few
Let's
times that
learn.
happened,
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's learn. Yeah.
the first few times when I saw that, I was like, well, why is it that they have two jobs? Are they not challenged in their current position, where they went and seeked out something else, or was that position hidden from their employer or something like that? More often than not, when I see it, it's more of the person is in a contract role and then they're doing consulting on the side, or vice versa. And once I get that clarity, it makes sense because you're consulting. It may not be 40 hours or 50, 60 hours, whatever it is that you're dedicating. And then so you can pick up the other position. But if they are in a full time role and then they have something else, if it's, so for example, for myself, I have a full time role, but then I'm also on a board for my College of Pharmacy as like their alumni board. That's not necessarily a full time job. It's more of a
Yeah.
consulting, but doesn't conflict in any way. Right.
Yeah.
And so if there are examples of the sort, then that makes sense. But if you're in a full time role and then taking on another consulting or another full time role, that's where some red flags come about and where I need to learn more to understand why is that taking place and
Hmm.
what's the rationale that you're doing two things at once. Because if you're for us at least, if you're working at our company, our expectation is that we're getting your attention. It shouldn't be split. And I'm pretty sure that's the case across the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Okay,
what I
Mary,
see, at
I'm being
least.
quiet. I'm being quiet.
Um, well, I had a question about something that you said, which I'm not sure if the listeners did not pick up on this. One of the things that Kanal said was, "I want to showcase to them that I read their whole resume." So, um, how how important do you think that is to a candidate? Do you think they even pick up on that when you're interviewing?
So you asked two questions there. One, how important is it to the interviewee? I think it's critically important. They're coming in there to spend their time to get to know you, get to know their company, seeing if they're a good fit for you, and vice versa. I think it's just a due diligence and mutual respect that you have to have as the hiring manager or the person that's interviewing the candidate, and ensure that they're getting a fair shot. And so I think for me, being on both sides, and if I was going into an interview and they asked me to explain my resume, that would kind of draw a little bit of concern of, I'm coming here to spend my time and you couldn't take some out to even look at the document that I've sent of like what my professional history is. So I think it's critically
Yeah.
important.
We can't, yeah. Yeah. We can't, it's, I think too many times we hold the people that are interviewing to a different standard than what we have. Right. And so, I mean, it really should be, we should be pursuing one another. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be just one, just like the idea of when I've been, and I think we'll probably talk about this later on. I mean, I used to, when I first started trying to get in the MSL world, I was concerned about getting lowballed. And so I almost gave it like, hey, you should want me versus let me show how much I want this job. Right.
Yeah.
And so I honestly, I think that backfired for me multiple times, especially when I'm now on the other side going, look, I want someone that has done their homework, that's passionate, that's curious, that hey, what other questions do you need to know
Mhm.
before offering me the job, right? Or is there anything else that you need from me to help inform your decision, et cetera? So learning a lot through this, but yeah, I think we should, um, if you really want, I mean, you want the best in your team, you want to pursue them, you want to know you want them to know what kind of leader you're going to be as well too, and that you're going to pay attention to them as a whole person and not just as a transaction, if you will.
Yeah,
That is such an
exactly.
excellent point. And see, both of you guys are hiring managers. I mean, it's been a long time since you interviewed for a job. You're interviewing other people, right? So, like, um, as somebody who is interacting with both sides, but it's very rare that a candidate will say it was absolutely clear that that interviewer read all of my resume, because the questions they asked me weren't like those, grab bag questions that, so why do you like being MSL? And, why are you interested in us? It's almost like akin to if we're looking at the other side of a coin, but if a candidate is interviewing and the company says, so what do you know about our pipeline? And they go, well, I haven't really looked at it yet. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
same, almost the
Mhm.
same thing, in my opinion. If a hiring manager who's trying to fill a job did not take the time to look at the person's resume first.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
absolutely.
Yeah, I love it when someone says, I mean, and why do you like, what is it in my experience that you see that will help bring value to your team, right? I mean, can you answer that question? And really, you have to know and you have to be able to be well versed in their experience and hear their experience as well too, for them to be able to answer that question in an authentic way. Um, because I think that's, especially with this generation, it is a show me generation and want to feel valued. And so we got to do everything that we can to make sure that happens.
I've got some statistics here for you.
Yeah.
Let me get
Uh-oh.
my statistic here. Okay, so I went through some publications and surveys and things like that. Um, there 63.3% of employers report that they receive too many unqualified applicants through their job postings. And the recent recruiting benchmark suggests that roughly 3 to 4% of applicants on any job receive an interview, which is actually pretty consistent with the statistics from around 2022, the last time I looked at them, which basically means 97 people apply to a job. Only 3 of them, at least on paper, appear qualified and get an interview. And um, if the company is lucky, they'll be able to make an offer out of those 3 that they interviewed.
Yeah.
And then you got to hope they're going to accept it, right? So I wonder if, and which I think is a big part of what we're talking about here today, I wonder if of those 97 people who applied that the company deemed not qualified, if they could have done something different with their resume that would have represented them better as a match, or if it's just that 97% of people are not qualified.
Yeah.
So, since a lot of what we're talking about is what should your resume say about you to help you, number one, get an interview, and then number two, have a successful interview, because hopefully your potential hiring manager is reading your resume and knows what there is, all about your background. So, what is your thought on cover letters?
Uh,
Um, like, do people read cover letters, or is a 2 or 3 line summary at the top of your resume enough?
I usually don't read a cover letter because majority of the time I'm assuming a lot of it has to do with AI generated. Like, hey, here's a job description, write me a cover letter, include these couple words. And I've seen that more and more. Before
Okay.
earlier on, I did read them. Now I'm seeing that trend. So if there is something that again that I want more clarity or maybe just get a better understanding of who they are, I may go skim it. But usually those 2, 3 sentences at the beginning is what most people have put a lot of thought into.
Okay.
Chad, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would just say, in short, believe it or not, agreed. It's really, I want to go back to the next. I'm aligned with with what you're saying. I'm really going to ask you more of like, would you rather see a 5-6 page full blown out CV, or would you rather have like a 2-page kind of like, here are the key things? Which one grabs your attention more, or which one do you prefer? I guess rather.
I'm a detailed person, so I would want to know the details. So give me something
Okay.
that's 4 or 5 pages, and I can at least understand and have more details about the different roles that you've done. In 2 pages, I feel like it's so compact. How are you going to tell me the impact that you've had in the roles that you've held with 2 or 3 lines in each? It's so
Yeah.
ambiguous. Like, you may highlight, like, okay, I don't know, increased field responsibility by 30% or whatever that is. More often than not, though, I do see where it's just a copy paste of the job description, and then they'll
Yep.
truncate that. And if it's that component, then yes, give me a shorter version, because if you put in MSL, I have a pretty good idea what that is. Medical information manager, I know what that is. Regulatory affairs, and so forth. Um, so in those instances, I'd want to see if you can give me a short 3 to 5 bullet points of what you've done and how that impacted your organization or team or moved the needle. That's great. And leave some room for more questions. But if you want to give me a comprehensive story, I would want the long version.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay, I don't know if you listeners know, but I have recently started a 9-person hiring manager advisory board. And you know who you are, and these 2 guys are 2 of them. So whenever I have an interesting question, I usually will text it out to these guys and get their take on it.
I didn't realize I was part of an advisory board. I can put that on my LinkedIn profile now too.
Yes,
That's be another
I've decided to call it
responsibility.
my advisory board.
All right. I like it.
But so I'm gonna go ask an advisory board question right now. So I would love to know, because I've been advising some people on not completely overhauling their resumes, but maybe an approach to putting their resume together that will be more attractive to a hiring manager. Because to your point, literally, people do sometimes copy and paste the job description like that is in their offer letter or whatever, and then or they use the exact same bullets for every job, every MSL job. And my thought to that is, like you said, Kunal, there are some things that are pretty much routine in an MSL job. So I've been suggesting to people, and I want you guys to either amend it or suggest it or whatever, put a couple of bullets of whatever your day-to-day duties are, develop relationships, identify thought leaders, support clinical trials, whatever. And then maybe spend more time on accomplishments. Like you were talking about, like, things that have moved the needle. So it would be like, job title, 3 bullets day to day. And then the accomplishments, I think, are maybe more important to what a hiring manager wants to see. What is your thought on that?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I would almost flip that of do what are your accomplishments and then put the day to day.
But under each role, right? Like not just like
under each
a
role.
whole page
Correct.
one of all your career long accomplishments. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest pitfall, I would say, even in people at our level who are looking to advance their careers. And I'm guilty of this too, in certain instances where I don't highlight the things that I've done that have been impactful, right? It's more, okay, these are my roles and responsibilities, and it ends there. But okay, great. You're a dime a dozen at that point. But what did you do that was different? Or what did you do that made an impact that either helped yourself, the team, the company, or whatever that is? How did that impact strategy? Did that impact bottom line? Whatever that looks like. And that's the part that me as a hiring manager wants to understand. Because to your point, Chad, I'm viewing these candidates to see what kind of background or skills do they have that fills a gap that I need now or potentially in the future. And so if I can already place that within the team or what I'm planning for, I think that's more likely to get an interview or at least give them a hook to be like, I want to talk to this person.
Oh, I like that. A hook to make me want to talk to this person. What do you think, Chad?
It is, yeah. The days of, first of all, I think one of the best things I've ever done was hire a resume writer. and I have interviewed and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reviewed resumes. I used to think, man, I know how to write resumes. I know how to do this kind of stuff. I see them all the time, and we sell ourselves short, or we're not able to tell a story. And I think kind of what you were mentioning earlier. Now, I'm different. First, I would say I like just give me a 2-pager that's applicable to the role, like the experiences. Because if you look at mine, my first 8 years or so were specific in retail, and there are some transferable things, but I really, for me now, it's okay. I want to focus on whatever job I'm looking at. If it's a leadership role, okay, I want to really pull through all the leadership responsibilities. So I may say additional information available upon request at the bottom, but then here, let me focus some of the things that draw your attention. I'm going to share that as a sneak peek real quick, and we won't go into a lot of this, but here is just a quick look at kind of how I've set mine up here. So
And that
to
was
your
written by
point,
a resume writer?
this was written by a resume writer. I basically walked through my entire career, let them know kind of, or the job I was after. And, anyway, so they put this together. So to your point, it's at the beginning, here are the key things that have happened, and there are action verbs that are in it that resulted in. It's beyond just what you did. It's how, like, what you did, or like what you did with that. So things like boosted metrics 115% during COVID pandemic through innovative tactics and strategies, improving access by flipping from individual component to institutional, et cetera, right? So on and so forth. So those are just ways. And then you can kind of go in to some of these, pulling these things out about things that have been done. And so that just gives, I can tell you the first time I did this type of resume, when I sat down with my interview with my hiring manager, she said, Chad, I really don't have any questions about your work experience because it's the most detailed and explains so much of your story. I just want to get to know you from this as well, too, and see how do we fit relationship. So I agree.
And that resonated with you, I'm sure, because that's your style.
Yes.
You like to get to know a person.
I do. I do. It's funny, Kunal. I don't know what your preference is. I like to do things by phone first. My first call is I want to take away any other senses. I just want to close my eyes and say, okay, how would I receive this for someone if they're trying to engage me for the first time? Can they grab my attention? Are they curious? Is it someone that I can see breaking down a wall or a barrier at an institution where there's no access and things like that? Hearing it first and then being able to put eyes to it as well too, right? So maybe that's old school. I don't know. Maybe it's just knowing my neurodivergence and just trying to keep things at bay. I don't know, but that seems to really work well for me. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of my interviews have been through Zoom.
Okay.
And so earlier on, before probably COVID, they were mostly by phone, like you had said. But now I think everything is virtual. I do get what you're saying, though, because and when you said, I wanted to tune out all the other senses and really focus, I can see how being on a screen or whatnot can take away from that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Doesn't mean
I'm
I
gonna have
don't
to
go
try
there
it.
eventually. It doesn't mean I
Yeah,
don't go there eventually. Okay. All right. So,
but that is really intriguing. I didn't think about that.
so we've gone, this has been really good. So tell me about your experience hiring first timers over the years.
Yeah, for first timers, one thing that is critically important is that if you don't live in territory, make sure that you put in willing to relocate. Because to your point, there are, throw out the stats of 60 something percent. And I would say it's probably closer to 80 just because of location, background, doesn't fit the need and whatnot. When thinking about first time applicants, though, what really catches my attention is how they highlight transferable skills. Can you showcase in your resume how you're doing this role without being in the environment?
Yeah.
So, for example, it would be like if you're a hospital pharmacist, highlighting the fact of peer to peer relationships, being able to communicate influence without authority, team player, those types of things. If you're and similarly within a retail pharmacy setting too, where you have to convey complex science in a simple matter, whether you're talking to a patient or an HCP, willing to be able to provide succinct information because time is of the essence. And then again, you're working in a cross functional team. How do you showcase leadership? All of those transferable skills. If you can tell me that, then, or at least within the resume, that's the hook that I would need to be like, okay, I'd want to talk to this person. The other part too is first time applicant, depending on the years of experience. If you're a new grad with less than 3 to 5 years of experience, you can say all of those things, but it's probably not going to compare to somebody who's been in the role for 10 to 15 years. Like I would say, coming from clinical practice or having a strong foothold, that's also your leverage within the interview because you have clinical or real world experience. For the
Mm.
HCPs that the MSL is talking to, you were or are that person. So you have walked the day in their shoes, you understand their thought process, and that's what you're bringing along with your professional network as well.
And it's important to communicate that too,
Yeah,
right? Like in the
absolutely.
storytelling, like, can you give me an example and being able to walk through how you establish confidence and trust in a rounding, physician or whatever that may look like, right? Or
Yeah.
how did you win somebody over? And then, well, it's through consistency, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. But yeah, being able to share some of those things, I think is absolutely crucial. Okay, so I am curious on this, and I would love to know the stat on this. Um, well, first, do you have with your internal HR? Do you have conversations about what you would look for in a first time MSL, right? Or new to the role MSL on what to look for with that? Because oftentimes I guess the ATS would automatically kick them out if 2 years of experience was required or
Yeah.
preferred or this, that, and the other. I wonder what that, and then Mary, do you know the percentage of um, first time hires that go directly to a company versus go through an external recruiter? And
And I don't think it's
Well, I'll
generalized.
answer the how many first time MSLs went through recruiters question that you asked me real quick, which is I don't know.
okay, thanks,
Yeah.
Mary.
But I wrote it down because that's an interesting. I don't know how I could accurately get that number, but I will
Yeah,
do what I can to try.
Kanal, what from your experience, tell us about it.
Yeah, and I would probably make this generalizable to all companies. When you're starting this process, there should be some alignment between HR and hiring manager of what they're looking for, right? If they're the ones that are doing the first round screening, if they don't understand that, then how are they sending you the qualified quick
Yeah,
candidate? So, yes, absolutely. HR should understand whether they're first time or seasoned. I've actually historically always approached it of this is my ideal candidate, whether they have experience or not. If they have these intangible skills or whatnot, because above everything, I prioritize fit. That is probably whether it's experience,
yep,
background, whatever that is, fit is critically important. At the end of the day, when everything's said and done, am I willing to spend time with this person? Right. If the answer is no, no matter how much experience or whatnot, that's a red flag for me and where I wouldn't be able to move the candidate forward,
yeah,
unfortunately. But that being
yeah,
said, once we get aligned from an HR standpoint, they are able to kind of screen and find those individuals. And it also depends, again, when I'm evaluating where we are now and what I need for the future, what are those gaps that those individuals are filling? It may not be something that I'm hiring for right now, but if I know that, hey, we're going to lose exclusivity or we're going off patent in 2 years, can I hire or find somebody that gets ramped up and can be the person to kind of shepherd that team or provide that experience in that during that time? And
mm,
like, how do you defend against a generic? What are the tactics, things like that? If you've done that before, and I have the foreshadowing or preemptively looking at those things, that's where I would maybe take a chance on somebody who is not necessarily exactly what I'm looking for, but would fit that gap.
yeah,
Um, the other component is that when having an interview team, because I don't think anybody is hiring anybody really anymore with just HR and a hiring manager. I'm assuming there's going to be other people that are involved. And similarly that you're getting on the same page with HR, those individuals also have to understand what are their roles and responsibilities within this process and how are we working collectively to find the right person.
Hmm.
Whether it's and
Mm-hmm.
consistency with throughout that process. So, or is one person assessing teamwork and collaboration, the other person's assessing fit, the other person's looking at work history, whatever that is, or professional development, and those questions the same person's asking, so that there's congruency when you're debriefing.
Do
I
you
love that.
do you have a certain set of questions that you ask?
Um, I would say, like, for me, when I'm reviewing the resume, or like depending, so no, I don't have a certain set
Yeah,
questions. I'm curating my questions based off of the individual. Is there something that I
yeah,
need to know more of? Because they are coming to me at a certain point of where they filled the essential gaps that I'm looking for. Right now, I'm evaluating, like you said, I want to get to know the person. And then at
yeah,
that point, it's okay. You told me about how it had an impact project. Can you verbalize in a star format, in a succinct manner of how you did that?
yeah,
If you ramble for 15 minutes, hey, maybe there's some like coaching that needs to be done, or is this the right fit? Right? Things like that is what I evaluate at that point. But if it's a newer MSL, yes, because I want to make sure that they understand the role. Somebody that's seasoned that transitions into how can you make an impact? How are you leveraging your experiences, skill sets, strengths to rise or like raise the floor
yeah,
and coach, mentor the newer people?
yeah,
So I have actually two questions, and one of them
Yeah.
just came up this week. Where I talked to somebody who had stable work history, recently got laid off, took a role, was there for like 4.5 months, and they parted ways. And when he sent me his resume, I'm like, well, you don't have the job you just left on your resume. And he said, I was advised to leave it off. And I said, okay. I said, who advised you to leave it off, if you don't mind me asking? He goes, a couple of people, including a recruiter, not a
Hmm.
recruiter from Symbio, by the way. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that's clear. Um, how do you guys feel about that? I mean, Kunal, let's start with you. Do you care whether, I mean, what's your thought on that? 4.5 months.
Um, I would care if I found out, like, well, I would find out eventually if I ended up hiring this person that they were out of place. So I would care. If you can tell me a real reason as to why you left, that makes sense. If it was just not a fit or whatever that is, I can respect that. So I would want to know. And for bigger than just that 4 month stint, is it a trend or is it a one off? If I look at their resume and I see that they've been at a location for 2, 3, 4 years consistently, and then this is just a one off, like then I'd be like, okay, what happened here? But I wouldn't ding that. It's more a seek to understand rather than passing judgment.
yeah.
So you'd suggest the person, you would rather them leave it on than leave it off.
Yeah, because if let's say you do get hired on, eventually it'll come out that you work for this company. And then I'd be like, well, why wasn't that included? I'd feel kind of blindsided at that point.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah,
you
I
think,
think, I
Jim?
mean, open honesty
Yeah.
is, I mean, I think, I think it's important to really understand what drives people, understand the why as much as possible. And the reality is just be prepared to answer the question. And, um, you know, if you're trying to, of course, I have the philosophy of granting trust. And that's, that's not just when someone becomes a part of my team. I mean, I want them to feel that that's who I am and not
Mhm.
kind of a thing that I do. So I would want that, and I would want to have kind of that reciprocated as well too. I mean, it could be the longer I've been in industry, the more I realize you can be put into really crappy situations that you didn't know about. You were sold a bill of
Yeah.
goods, things change on the fly, life circumstances happen. I mean, we can miss things as hiring managers and miss out on great opportunities if we just make assumptions on those types of things.
Yeah.
Um, but I would still want them to be transparent, because if not, I mean, then it's all of a sudden, to your point, and I was like, wow, I thought I could really trust this person. And now I feel like they're just selectively sharing certain components of it and leaving certain things out as well
Yeah.
too. So that kind of raises a flag of, okay, maybe I need to keep my eye out on this person a little bit. Maybe what they're not who I thought they were, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so the second part that's not really part of my questions. My next question is talking about resume mistakes. So,
Mhm.
what are some, like, aside from like typos and stuff like that, what are some resume mistakes that people make um intentionally or unintentionally that you think they need to pay better attention to and avoid?
Um, so like the most egregious ones are where they put in the wrong information. So A, don't lie. We'll find out. Second is make sure that your resume matches your LinkedIn. I cannot tell you the number of times that I pull up a resume on one screen and a LinkedIn on the other, and it doesn't match. So those are other red flags. Or LinkedIn has positions to your point, and your resume doesn't, or vice versa, whatever that looks like. Um, Also, I would say one thing that actually I don't understand is why people put their full address. That's one thing that I'm like, with everything in the digital age, we just need to know what city and state maybe, but I don't need your whole address. That's just one thing that I usually advise newer MSLs on because I see that pretty frequently. Going back to your question though, is show me the impact. Yes, your roles and responsibilities are there, but what did you do? I have, and like you said, Mary, in a single posting, I may have 100 and 120 candidates. All of them, if not, well, all of them will put their roles and responsibilities, but I would say maybe 2% actually have what they did and how it moved the needle. If you want to get recognized or if you want me to understand how I see you in this role, tell me what you did and how that, moved the needle. That's the biggest thing that I would, as a takeaway or a key pearl, that when you're updating your resume, you're doing that. I love the recommendation of hiring a professional resume writer. That's a really good tip
Mm.
because, as you said, we're very busy individuals, and to maybe potentially export that because it can take a lot of time to do it and think about it and have somebody who does it professionally. They're going to be way better
Yeah.
than I am.
It's like buying a washer and dryer. No one wants to spend the money on those types of things, but I can tell
Yeah.
you the ROI was there. I
Yeah.
mean, it really paid off, paid dividends. Same to the whole LinkedIn profile update. The company I use actually created that. All I had to do was plug and play. I mean, the next day I started getting hits and things like that. There's multiple reasons for doing that, but showing consistency, I think, is an important thing as
Yeah.
well too. That's really good call outs.
I do want to throw in a caveat there, just like a recruiter that you might use. Don't use just any old resume writer, because
That's right.
there are some out there that legitimately just use ChatGPT. So you might as well just use ChatGPT and save the money. Use a good one.
Hello?
So
Yep.
yeah, so definitely interview your resume writer to make sure that, how are they planning on writing it? And if you can get a recommendation from somebody who's used one and you've liked what they've done and felt like they weren't wasting your time, just my
Yeah.
little piece of advice there.
So
Um,
so so we get into they move through the first round, et cetera. It's time for presentations. What's your thought on presentations? What do you like? Do you like them to do their own thing? Do you like to give them a topic to discuss and present and create? Do you send them their own?
Yeah.
You send them a copy of the companies. What do you do? What are your thoughts and
Yeah,
why?
I've been being at multiple companies. It's really different at each one, right? I've been at companies where they provide the study and then we want to see how they're able to break down the information. And it's not like we're learning something new. On the flip side, I've been at companies where it's, hey, this is the parameters and you need to create your own. Uh, I don't think there's a either rhyme or reason. What I do look for is one, this may be old fashioned, but I'd like for you to stand up and like address the room. If you're
Not
sitting
old
down,
fashioned.
like,
No.
and if it given the opportunity or the chance or whatever it is, like I've been in so many interviews where the person's like, "Oh, is it okay if I just sit here?" I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure." Like I'm not going to tell you you're presenting, you should be at the front of the room. You like have command of it. So that's one thing. The other part is how do they do they understand the assignment? Are they able to convey information, tell a story, engage the audience? Are they looking and asking for questions? How is their EQ if they realize that I'm losing the crowd? What are they doing to kind of either ask somebody a question or inflections in tone, pace, whatever that looks like to regain the room. So those are probably it's a lot of the soft skills and EQ part that I'm looking for. And then also command of the material. If we throw them a curveball, how do they think on their feet in a high stress environment? Are you going to say make up an answer or say, I'll get back to you. I'll look it up and get back to you. And those are probably, if you can ace those things, I'd feel pretty confident that in the wild, you'd be able to do pretty well.
In the wild.
Yeah,
So do you
I
like to do
mean,
this presentation stage in person?
yeah, we do all of our, actually all of the companies that I've been in, as the interviewer or the interviewee, I've always presented or had the interviewer present in person.
I'm seeing
Yeah.
more and more of that. It's returning. Like they'll do all the other interviews, but the presentation in person. I
I
like it.
think it should. I mean, now
Yeah.
that if you're really tech savvy, I mean, you can have two screens together to tell the story. I mean, you could read something and people would never know
Yeah.
those types of things. I mean, I think, um, and with the AI where you can have something actually in the background creating answers and responses for you. Man, I think in person there is something to that we really
Yeah.
need to. It's not worth the long term investments to skimp on that. I think we should prioritize that.
Propose right now that we do a follow-up podcast on presentations. All the
Let's do
philosophies
it.
about presentations and what y'all are looking for in the presentation, because this is one that I think could go on another half hour.